Alright guys, this is only Patreon, so love you guys. Alright, anyways, so the 5-die rainbow villains, we're going to talk about it today. I'm going to try to get a primer going, but this week doesn't exist to me, outside of like trying to get the videos in for you guys, and so like sometime next week is hopefully when I can get things done. The deck is, to me, it feels like one of the best decks in the format, or the best deck in the format, and there are a few reasons for this, so we'll quickly go through the breakdown. So my reasoning for always playing Politique and Night Sister is this. Politique gives you a potential huge advantage versus any 3 or 4 character deck, hands down. Like, you don't need anything anything else in the deck to do any sort of like, oh, I hit multiple guys, or I'm concerned about 30 health. All that crap goes out the window when you run Politique, because if you throw 2 upgrades on him, every time you get a kill, that's probably going to be about 4 damage worth. My reasoning on the 4 damage worth is like, to me, resource, shield, and single damage are just about interchangeable. A resource is actually probably worth more than a single damage, and a shield and 1 damage are actually, to me, the full equivalent, minus the fact that when you kill a guy, you remove his die permanently, which is probably worth a bit more than a damage, but that's only under the pretense that you're actually killing the guy. Otherwise, putting the damage on has no real relevant difference, because it works the same other way, where if you keep your guy alive, then he's there to continue dealing damage. So it's hard to really gauge those situations. So then the reason on Night Sister is that she puts a massive amount of pressure on people, and also gives you an additional target. So let's say you're playing Politique, Sienna, TIE Pilot, they're probably going for Politique. If you play with Guavine instead, it's still Politique. When it's a Night Sister, the game changes. So if you're like ignoring Palpatine, because Palpatine's automatically doesn't give a crap about Palo. If you're playing against anything with any ranged, they immediately have to decide whether you have deflects in deck or not, and whether it's worth trying to kill her to stop the deflecting. The second thing is their removal. If their removal is very light, or they don't constantly get the resources to be able to remove stuff, the Night Sister essentially dictates that you're not going to have a round with a bunch of dead dice, when like re-rolling, things like that. So it doesn't matter if they can manipulate your dice a bit, you're going to consistently get out of that spot solely based on the fact that you have her. And it also makes it harder on them to keep the godly sides of specific cards. So in particular, let's just look at like Pole Blaster, since R2-P2 is something that people are jumping on the bandwagon for right now. Pole Blaster is 2 damage, a +2, and then I believe it's Disrupt Resource Special. So now, assuming that the Pole Blaster lands on Poe, you have a 2 damage side and a 3 damage side, and the other sides you don't care about in comparison. So it's only 33% to hit the great side that you wanted. You have other tricks you can do with Poe's actual dice, but in the situations where you don't hit like the special to do the stuff, if you focus over the damage, the Night Sister can help protect Bala or your other guys at the sole cost of 1 damage. So it's kind of like redirecting damage via like a life debt. That's not necessarily as good as just shifting damage over, because she has to take 1 and there's still luck involved. But she shuts down a lot of the ridiculous stuff. So like, let's say you're a mirror match or something, and they only have 2 Sienna dice, and it's 1 damage and then +2. Like, you have insane odds to just completely nullify their damage by re-rolling that 1 So as long as they don't have a bunch of other dice, like taking that one to stop that is potentially amazing, and you would more often take that trade of 1 damage to stop 3 damage and turn it into, a disrupt or resource or whatever. And Night Sister just always has that available, so she's always a looming threat. And in the situations where your opponent claims to try to take the battlefield, which is very, it happens very frequently, they have to be completely shit afraid that she can flip dice into whatever sides that get needed, and you kill their character off. Especially when it's more tight situations, your opponent's guy has three health left, and you have 3 or 4 dice out. You start to have very good odds to be able to kill that with any 4 of your dice in the deck. With any 3, it's a little harder, but let's say one of the dice is Bala and the other one's showing a +2, your odds jump up immensely. If you just take 2 damage, you're 55% to be able to hit that. This is not including any cards you have in hand to pitch for a reroll. So there's also just different situations. So let's say you had a holdout blaster showing 2 for a resource, and you had a +2 showing. Now re-rolling the Bala die, you can hit 1, you can hit focus, you can hit resource to then get the kill. And the Night Sister being for that means that you can take slightly more not riskier options, but you don't have to force a reroll on all 3 dice there, knowing you only have the 1 card in hand and this is your only option. She just always leaves you with available options, and always having that option is huge. It just puts me in so many good situations from things that you don't want to see. Even when Sabine rolls, not rolls, but she re-rolls into a bunch of damage, all of her dice that hit hard for damage are only 33%. So you will take that one and see how it goes. If it's a 3 showing, you take it every time, because even if it hits the 2, you evened out and you got to split the damage, assuming they're not going after Night Sister. So this is pretty much why I always play it, because you get those hands sometimes that have no removal, and you're like, oh, this is stupid. If only I could draw a removal, and well, your deck's not all removal, so that's, it's going to happen. When that 3% happens where you roll 2s on every one of your character dice, it happens at some point. It may only be 1 in 100 games, but it will occur. And if you had access to her, you could have stopped it, because your opponent does it, and then you just flick that 2, screw you, bro. But so for me, those are huge things. It's always a big advantage to me by having those, because you just always have that option. You can change your luck at the drop of a hat, at the low cost of the damage. So that's why I always play them. Now, the reason that I'm doing Elite Sienna over something let's say, Elite Phasma Bala Night Sister, because I would still be maintaining, is that 5th die it's not very important where you're oh my god, I must have it. There's just no reason to give it up. If I start the game with a 3rd resource, I'd be cheating. Except I start with the damn Sienna. So I'm starting with a die. The 5th die gives you the potential to win the die roll better, because your average becomes 5 instead of 4. And most decks don't have an average of 5. They're sitting around an average of 4 roughly, and some are even lower. So you have an advantage from the I get to choose battlefield, meaning I get to just get shields 99% of the time. I think I lost the die roll 3 or 4 times during the entire event, and I played 16 or 17 rounds. So I'm fine with that a 75% win rate on that. It puts me ahead from the beginning. And then most of those decks actually picked their own battlefield, and gave me 2 shields because they were decks that needed their battlefield. So the Mill deck took their battlefield, Kylo Anakin took their battlefield. So to me, that was still me winning the die roll, because I'm pretty much always picking their battlefield. There has to be Poe might be the only one where I may not pick his Battlefield because that shit's just too scary. Because you don't want to get Y-Wing twice in a round, especially since if you're playing slow. But you can kind of like counterclaim, so it's a weird situation. Excuse me. But so I feel like I'm way ahead there. That 5th die is at astronomical value. So like the first round, even if I'm grabbing a 3rd resource, that means I can now cast a 2-drop and cast a piece of removal. If I disrupt, then that means I could have stopped you from whatever game plan you had, or stop you from casting an upgrade, or having your removal to stop my damage. And then the other 2 sides are just damage. So like I'm going to reroll the blank. I can pretty much profit off of everything. I normally don't ever end a round with a blank die showing. So I'm just starting with a massive amount of value from the beginning. And I'll tell you with this, if you cut logistics from the deck, you should be smacked. I started many games with the logistics because for me that's a keep target, assuming I have an upgrade in hand. So like any of the 2-drop upgrades in hand within the logistics, I'm probably keeping the logistics, unless I like absolutely need a piece of removal because I'm like, oh my god, this deck, the opponent's scary. Because there were so many times where I was like, all right, I'm going to cast an X8 on Sienna. I'm going to roll out. Now, with logistics in hand and another 2-drop, that means I could be at the 7 dice by the end of round 1. And going into round 2 with 7 dice, potentially 8 die, because I'm going to then play like another upgrade, is a fucking beating. Like, you have no idea. Like, people don't really think about it. They're not dejected about me having 8 dice. But, like, what the hell am I going to roll on 8 dice? And now assume none of them are blanks because I just won't allow a blank to stay there. Like, what am I going to do? I'm either going to damage the crap out of you, I'm going to have a bunch of money for more dice or removal, or I'm going to get shields or disrupt you. So, like, everything is just, like, a ginormous beating. I don't have real discard sides, except on just Night Sister. So, like, I can't really, like, mess with people's hands, but messing with the resources is, usually good enough. Out-resourcing people, I can now afford, like, backup muscle, I can flank you, I can deflect you, I can pay for my pay sides that are 2s or 3 with X8, I can pay for X8 to flip it. Like, the big thing is that you're going to out-attrition people with 1,000,000 dice. So, like, you tend to play a slightly safer game. Everyone sees me do, like, 6 damage, 5 damage, 7 damage round 1, and that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking to do that while netting like additional resources or shields or disrupt my opponent so that they can't get their game plan going, and I'm just kind of like kicking them to the side. The 1 resource differential is huge, especially since like hero decks don't have good 0-cost things. So against most hero decks, I'm just so far ahead because I can kind of do what I want and like screw with them. Like, we have Doubt, we have He Doesn't Like You, so we have 4 0-drops. We're like, jackpot, fuck you. Yes, you're getting swears in this one because I'm like, yeah. We have flanks and Force Illusions, which are nigh unstoppable, and tend to block minimum of 2 damage, and in some situations it can stop 3, with like flank stopping like a pole blaster, or taking like the 3 from like an ancient lightsaber. I don't often sit there and take a 1 base side unless like they can't reroll, or I just want to force them to reroll knowing that they're going to be screwed. So you have those. Then versus any of the gun decks, you have Deflect, which is the most situational ginormous beating you'll ever play. You sit across from Palpatine and you deflect a 3, you stopped 5 damage and dealt them 2. You probably win the game there. Them resolving a 3 is like a huge chunk, and like they probably might even just go on tilt right there. If you hit Sabine's 3 and deal her 2, you've stopped 5 at the cost of 1. Like, that is Force Illusion level for essentially half of the decks that are going to be played, if not more. Because if outside of like Qui-Gon Cannon, I think every deck is ranged. R2-P2, you're going to flip like a 2, you're going to stop like a pole blaster while it's on a 2. You'll probably just ignore the 1. You can randomly spike out like an Anakin, 1 damage. You can randomly hit a cannon's 1 range damage. And in those situations, you're essentially doing 2 because you're stopping 1 and then dealing 1. So like that's pure profit. Like this is our like defensive lightsaber throw for the deck, and it's an absolute monster. So there was 8 mainboard removal plus 2 force illusions. So we're sitting at roughly 10 mitigation, not counting Night Sister. We have 10 upgrades, our damage dice upgrades, or just dice upgrades in general. So those create us more additional advantage, because if, let's say I roll Sienna, don't have logistics. Let's say I just roll Sienna, get 2 resources, and I take those, and I'm like, all right, X8 holdout. That 1 die is probably going to do about the same as what Sienna's die did. In the issue of X8, it's got the 1, it's got the +2, it has the disrupt, it has the resource. It is Sienna's die, but I'm now trading out that other resource side for a 3-for-1 damage side. Holdout is so like the exact same as DH without a resource side. So like you can DH and you feel the exact same. It's just that you lose the ambush and the redeploy. But DH will sometimes just get upgraded into a redeploy later. It's just that it gives us the extra damage right away. And I have no problem taking the shield, because we're getting a bunch of value and attrition out of it. So it's very important to be capable of understanding what's going on there. I'm going to, I think, pause this video because I have to get into the work, because I've got like 4 minutes to open up the cart. So we're going to call this part 1. But right now I'm literally just talking about what you're gaining from having a million dice and why other decks can't do this. Because the other 5 dice starts are trying to play like 3 cost, 4 cost with like Hera, and do silly stuff. And we're just looking at a bunch of dice that are damage, resources, shield, or disrupt. So damage and shield are interchangeable. As far as I stay alive, I kill you. Resources gain us more attrition, and disrupt stop the opponent's attrition or ability to remove dice. It is a complete and utter beating. And let's not let the secret out, guys. Shh. This is part 1. I hopefully have part 2 soon coming for you guys. And we'll go over like deck construction and why I picked certain stuff. I cut the sound the alarm for a second flank after realizing I do not need the sound alarm, and that I just rain money all day. But all right, on to Sarcastic. I hope this is enjoyable for you guys. Let's go win every freaking regionals. Yeah, baby, do this.